Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Gestalt IT Rundown. We are broadcasting live here on July the 25th, 2018. My name is Tom Hollingsworth. I will be your host this week. Also joining me on a regular basis is Rich Stroffolino. However, this week he is on assignment and will not be joining us, but we hope that he will be tuning in live. So, Rich, if you're out there, hi, and I hope everything's going well with you. All right, so let's get right into the rundown news this week. So we're going to start off with a story about Microsoft. So as it turns out, Microsoft updates are going away. No, just kidding. Some of them are going away. So Microsoft has decided that starting in February of 2019, they're going to kill their Delta update program. So what is a Delta update? Well, as it turns out, people got tired of having to download a whole bunch of patches from Microsoft all at once, and Microsoft said, we're going to introduce this concept called the Delta update, where you only have to download the patches that have changed in the last month. Great idea in theory, right? Well, it turns out that most people don't want to do that. They don't want to download Deltas every month. What they actually want to do is download Express updates, which are collections of patches, because as it turns out, people don't patch once a month. They patch on a regular basis. So Microsoft has decided that they're going to get rid of the Delta updates because it actually makes things a whole lot easier for administrators. Well, where did Delta updates come from if Microsoft is killing them off so quickly? It turns out that Microsoft was using Delta updates with third-party patch providers to give them an option of streamlining their patching process, because Express and full updates only work when you are using systems that are directly connected to Microsoft Update or Windows Update. So Deltas were kind of a stopgap measure for third-party patching systems to get rid of their dependence upon other updating mechanisms. And now, effective February 2019, you're not going to be able to do anything other than an Express update or a full update, which, according to Microsoft, is what most people were using anyway. So what does this mean for third-party patching programs? I know that a lot of people have kind of moved away from using them, in part because a lot of the control that third-party patching programs offered is now being integrated into Microsoft and Windows updates. The ability to defer updates, the ability to see what was going to be released and individually pull out updates, the ability to create manifests that ensured that certain systems never got updates. Once you've lost that power and you have the ability to do something like an on-site Windows update server, the ability or the desire to use a third-party patching program kind of goes away. And so I think Microsoft is basically trying to lighten the load here. They're trying to make things a little bit easier for administrators out there so that they don't necessarily have to worry as much about trying to get things running and updated as quickly as possible. I still think we're going to see a lot of update roll-ups that can be applied to systems as they patch. The new functionality in Windows 10 that allows patches to be downloaded before the operating system is booted for the first time really does help as well. So I think things are just going to be easier, and we're just getting rid of some stuff that nobody was really using anyway. So adios, Delta updates. In other news, Google is going to have to pull out their checkbook again. Turns out that the European Union Antitrust Board found something they didn't like with Android. And how much is it going to cost Google for this little infraction? $5.05 billion. That's a lot of money. What did the European Union Antitrust Board not like? Well, it turns out that when you install Android, the Google mobile operating system, you get a free copy of Chrome as the web browser, and you get a free copy of Google as your search engine. And those are integrated and turned on by default, and you can't do anything about them. And the Antitrust Board said, we don't like this. We don't like this enough that we're going to make you pay a fortune for it. Well, hey, that's Google for you, right? Google fired back, however, and they said, well, we can change this, of course, but yeah, it's going to cost you a lot. How much? Well, Android may not be free after this is over with, because we're going to have to offset the revenue that we got from ads and things like that. So the privacy advocates are sitting over here in the corner cheering because, yeah, hey, if I want to use DuckDuckGo and Opera or Firefox Mobile as my browser, I can do that on Android, and I don't have to worry about it being the default every time I install it. And Google's saying, all right, you got what you wanted. And now we're going to get what we want, which is money, money, money. Now, they may have to charge a little bit extra to pay off this $5 billion fine. Of course, there's going to be appeals and there's going to be negotiations. And, maybe this won't end up being $5 billion after all. The irony is of course, $5 billion is not a drop in the bucket to Google. That's why they're actually fighting this, is because $5 billion is a record fine. But it made people sit up and notice. I mean, if this had been $500,000, Google probably would have paid it and not even thought twice. What does this mean for the future of Android, though? Specifically, the tight Google integrations. For those of you who have been in IT long enough, you probably remember when we had this exact same saga back in the 90s when Microsoft integrated everything into Windows and the U.S. antitrust lawyers went absolutely ballistic. And so we now have to deal with the fact that Google's doing the exact same thing, only it's a much tighter integration. It's a much more pervasive operating system. And let's be fair, they're not doing it because they're trying to sell more copies of Office. They're doing it because they want your data. So this is probably going to be something that's going to take a long time to wind down. And what happens to the other major mobile manufacturer in the world? What happens when the European Antitrust Union takes a look at iOS? Is iOS offering decoupled enough search and browsing functionality to avoid getting the giant hammer of money thrown at them and saying, you have to pay us? This will be interesting. I think this is going to be something that's going to take some time to develop over the course of the next few years, especially as the appeal comes out. So you might want to stay tuned for that. And if you're a fan of Android, this has a lot of implications for you, both good and bad. All right, fan of the show, Larry Ellison and his tiny little company in Silicon Valley, Oracle, has announced this week that they are going to be offering a blockchain as a service product for businesses that heard the word blockchain in an analyst briefing, and they're now scrambling to check that little checkbox. This joins industry stalwarts like IBM, HPE, SAP, and a bunch of other three-letter acronym companies that you probably haven't heard of in a while. And they are going to be betting big that companies are going to want this hot, can we even call it a thing at this point? I still don't know that blockchain is a thing. They're going to be paying through the nose every month until they figure out that maybe inserting blockchain into all of your systems is not going to be a magic wand that makes you more efficient or makes you meet some kind of crazy analyst thing. And so this article that I read on IT World, it's filled with this awesome pie-in-the-sky idea of people doing shipping notifications. So like when your container shows up on the dock, the blockchain is scanned, validated, and it automatically triggers a payment to the supplier. And okay, that's great. In theory, that's an awesome thing. In practice, we all know exactly what's going to happen with this thing, and that's going to be no one's going to use it, because it turns out business processes are stupidly hard to change. And that's one of the things that we've learned in IT for a very, very long time. Business process logic is not something that's easily modifiable, even with blockchain. And the irony is the blockchain is immutable. Well, there's only one thing more immutable in this world than that, and that's business processes. We don't want to change unless there's a valid monetary reason to do that. And so, is this going to be a thing? Is this going to be an offering that Oracle's going to be able to, stand up alongside all of their cloud ambitions and their database ambitions? And is this going to be something that people are actually going to want to use? Or is it something that's going to get chucked to the wayside as soon as people figure out that they're literally renting a buzzword? I don't even know. In fact, does anybody out there care about blockchain? Realistically speaking, if you're someone who is using blockchain in production right now, I want you to leave a comment on this video. I want you to tell us how you're using blockchain, how you're trying to get involved with it. Because realistically speaking, you may be the only person that's ever commented that they're using blockchain on a video in the history of the world. So I look forward to your comments. All right, so let's get into some cloud news, because one of the things that's taking over the world is cloud. And there's been some big announcements that have come out of cloud so far this week. The first one is from Google. So we've got Google Next going on this week. A lot of people in Silicon Valley talking about all things Google, and not Google paying $5 billion for stuff. This is on the enterprise cloud side of things. They announced a lot of things related to AI, machine learning, security. But one of the big ones was Google Cloud Engine on premises. Yeah, that's right. Google's moving some containers into your data center. This is an implementation of GKE. By the way, every container engine in the world uses K for some reason. Kubernetes maybe. Using Google Container Engine on premises, it gives you the same capabilities that you have with your Google Container in the cloud for Google Compute Engine, only you can do it internally now. That's great if you're one of those people who's just getting on the DevOps train and you want to make sure that you have the capability to use the same workflows in both locations. And I'm thinking that's what Google's actually looking at too. Why would you possibly want to put a thing in a person's data center? It's just stuff you have to worry about. Now, in their case, it's all software, so it doesn't really matter. But this is Diane Green's secret plot to make everybody use Google's methodologies. I think we can pretty much say it's the latter half of 2018. Kubernetes, if it hasn't won the war, is quickly going to eclipse everything else. The fact that everybody is supporting it, the fact that Google is putting millions, if not billions of dollars of investment into Kubernetes tells you where their ambitions lie. And so if you can get people hooked on using Kubernetes workflows, using Google Cloud Engine's way of doing things, whether it's on premises or in the cloud, you know what you're going to get? A lot of market share. And that's Google's secret, is that if they can get everybody using their stuff, then they're going to get a lot more customers. And when they're comfortably sitting in third place, does that give them the ability to strike up to where Azure and AWS are sitting currently? Time will tell. And it also matters a lot about how many people are trying to containerize their workloads. I mean, we still haven't gotten past the idea that a container is just a really, really slim VM. Some people are doing some amazing things with them, but I think this is an organizational shift that needs to occur. Is this going to mean that people are going to be using containers inside of their own existing enterprise workloads? I don't know. A lot of people are talking about it, but a lot of people are talking about a lot of things right now, and I don't have a good, solid answer. I'm hoping they do soon, and I'm hoping that at Google Next 19, we're going to hear a lot of stories about people who have done on-premises Google Cloud and Google Container deployments and how it's changed their life, because really that's what it's going to take to move the needle here. So if you move up the stack to the largest competitor of Google, and that would be our good friends in Washington, Amazon, they seem to like snow. Maybe they don't get to see a lot of it up in the rainy Northwest. You may recall Amazon has a product called Snowball, which is basically a storage engine that they send to your site. You can load data onto Snowball and ship it back to Amazon, and they'll ingest it into their cloud, so you don't have to pay for data transfer costs. And then, not to be outdone, one year at reInvent, they parked a semi-truck full of snowballs on the stage and called it the Snowmobile. Very creative, guys. I loved that. Well, now, thanks to our friend of the show, Chris Wall, and a blog post that he put up, we found out about Snowball Edge. So what is Snowball Edge? Snowball Edge is the complement to Snowball. It is a small form factor system that gets shipped to your site. You plug it in, you run it just like it was an Amazon instance, and you can run it against local data. The results of that data are saved to the Snowball Edge. The Snowball Edge is shipped back to Amazon, and your data is ingested into the cloud. Okay, pretty neat idea. Not sure where it fits in. The initial surveys said that people are probably going to be using it for things like really, really remote sites. Like, I guess if you need to run data against a workload at the top of Mount Everest where you don't have any connectivity, although I hear there is cell phone connectivity up there now, maybe like really, really remote sites. Maybe it's a data portability issue. This is actually a bigger thing, because we're hearing now that there are a lot of boutique cloud providers that are spinning up to offer you a service, a system where your data can't move. Think about this. You've got a lot of data out there that is unwieldy. It's difficult to move it. I mean, that's why Snowball was a thing. It's because we need to be able to send you data over large distances. But here's the other thing. Think about that data that can't move for regulatory reasons. I mean, do you think the U.S. government wants to try to upload their nuclear research to the cloud? No, don't think so. The other thing I think you're going to see this for is for like things like hospitals, things like secure government installations. Now, I don't know why they're going to want to store their stuff in the cloud anyway. But on the flip side, if you're not uploading your nuclear regulatory data to an S3 bucket and leaving it wide open to the world, odds are really good that you're not going to have to worry about anybody stealing it. And that's where we're looking at there. Now, here's the question. We know that Google Container Engine on premises is going to move the needle for Google because it allows them to get down into the enterprise. Is Snowball Edge going to move the needle for Amazon? And remember, the needle for Amazon is pegged pretty far to the right already. They are the largest cloud provider in the world. Do you think that Amazon is going to get more customers from this? I mean, obviously the answer is yes. They wouldn't have produced it if somebody didn't ask for it. But are they getting more mainstream customers, or are they starting to go for those edge cases? Because, let's just make up another 80-20 rule, because everything has to have an 80-20 rule. I believe that Amazon will spend all of their money getting the 20% of the customers who aren't going to willingly come to their service right now. Because let's face it, they've got a bunch of customers. They are the behemoth, the 800-pound gorilla, the Cisco of cloud, the IBM of cloud, the Wang computers of cloud. Guess what? Some customers are never going to go there. So are they going to spend all of their money and development time trying to court those customers they don't already have? Or should they spend all of that money trying to get people that they want to get engaged, the people who bought in early and just need a couple of quality of life investments? Time will tell. I don't think Amazon's going away anytime soon, so I'm not necessarily worried about that. All right, so that should just about do it for this episode of the Gestalt IT Rundown. Remember that if you've missed any of this episode or any of the other episodes that we've recorded, full episodes are available on our Facebook page here at gestaltit.com. We've also published them in a podcast feed. Rich Stroffolino has done a great job of getting you all the media you want in every feed you could possibly imagine. Just go for search for the Gestalt IT Rundown in your favorite podcasting application of choice. You should see a bright, shiny G. That is your feed. Remember that you can catch us live on Facebook every week, Wednesdays at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, Eastern Daylight Time, depending on your daylight savings of choice. Sometimes we'll go a little bit early if we got some things going on, but we try to stick to 12:30 because that gives you a chance to eat a nice tuna sandwich before you sit down and get all the news that you can't miss. Now, if you want to hear some more great content, not just this podcast, but other podcasts and read some other writing, be sure to head over to our website at gestaltit.com, GESTALT-IT.com. It's a German word that means awesome things that you should be reading. That's not the literal translation, but hey, it's the 2010s. I can make words up. My name is Tom Hollingsworth. I'm going to go ahead and call it a day here. But if you have any questions or if you need anything from us, please make sure to hit us up on Twitter. I'm at Networking Nerd, and you can always reach the other host of this podcast, Rich Stroffolino, as Mr. Anthropology. That's MR Anthropology. So for those of you out there, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. We really appreciate your ears and your mind. And have a super sparkly day.